Still, she's fairly confident she can find them anyway. Not that she wants to. She thinks Queef has something up her sleeve. In fact, everyone's uncomfortable about this, general mistrust in Queef and his motives. I wonder how that's going to play out. Eventually, Toby changes Aldrea's mind. The Animorphs refuse to let Cassie go to the Hork-Bajir homeworld alone, so they start making arrangements with the Chee to take their place for a couple of weeks. But enough about that. Who wants more of Axe being an asshole? Did you warn her about Andalite Nothlets, daughter of Zero, who pretend to be Hork-Bajir? Axe shot back. I am Hork-Bajir. No, the Hork-Bajir are like Jera and Ket and the rest. You could perhaps consider yourself the equivalent of a Hork-Bajir seer, but your intelligence is not the result of a genetic fluctuation. I do not know you, Aldrea Iskillian Fallen, but I know of you. You are highly intelligent, emotionally self-controlled, capable of lying and manipulation for your own ends. You are also fundamentally peaceful, moral, courageous, and capable of self-sacrifice. You are, in short, an Andalite, not a Hork-Bajir. I don't know you, but here's a list of traits about you. I just don't get why Axe has such a huge emotional stake in Aldrea's character. What he knows about her probably stems from a footnote in a history class he wasn't paying attention to because he wanted to eye-stalk bang that one hot female in the class, and a story told secondhand by Tobias. Just why? Yep, everyone who didn't have one gets a Hork-Bajir morph, and the Animorphs, Queef and Toby pile into the Yeerk minivan and start making their way to the homeworld. It takes a few days, but they finally get there. So the guerrilla fighters and their stolen enemy ship make their way to the forested globe, planning to trick the invading empire that has settled there with stolen access codes. And this whole book is Star Wars! We get this book where the Animorphs run into an Andalite patrol ship, apparently grazing the borders of Yeerk space to try and provoke some trouble. And we get this moment of, we might just have to kill the good guy to maintain our cover, before some Yeerk ships show up and the Animorphs successfully defend the Andalite ship, and I guess all is well. It's not badly written, but I'm skimming over this because it is completely superfluous to everything else that's going on. It's total filler. The Animorphs land on the planet. Huge chunks of the forest have been cleared, and there's a large open-air Yeerk pool built from giant logs because nothing says population center in an occupied area in the middle of a war like wooden construction and exposure to the elements. The Animorphs and friends make camp in one of the Arn cliffside structures and start making a plan. Aldrea narrates. Are you ready? You're our guide. Take us to the weapons. Let's get this moving. Yes, I'm ready, I said. I tried to cover the uncertainty I felt, tried to hide it from Cassie. I did not know the location of the weapons. I remembered Dak and I and the others, with the few who still gathered with us, taking the ship, but I must have hidden them after recording my Ixala. You don't know where they are? Cassie accused. Nonsense. Oh my God. You don't. I can feel it. I can tell you're lying. Wait, what, What? But it was already established Aldrea didn't know where the weapons were. I read that part to you guys. She clearly tells Cassie this, who clearly tells everyone else. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone at this point. She doesn't know where the weapons are. Not for sure. She has an idea. Andalite facial expressions are subtle, but I have been born an Andalite. I saw the triumph in Eximali's eyes, the sense that he had judged me correctly. Human facial expressions were still strange to me. Jake's face showed nothing. It seemed to be deliberately void of expression. Well, that's something we should have thought about before we took off, he said mildly. Well, that's on you, Jake, because she told you days ago! Jake said, No choice now. We're here. But you, Aldrea, are no longer to be trusted. You're mad at the Andalites, mad at the Arn, and you don't treat humans as allies. I understand your anger. You're in a very strange reality right now, but we get in and out alive. That's what we do. So if you get in the way, making me doubt you again, we will put you down. I told you. Anyway, the Animorphs, Aldrea, and Toby start making their way to the Yeerk pool. Aldrea repurposed a hollow tree as a base back in the day and figures the weapons are probably hidden in there, but unfortunately that tree has been repurposed as part of the Yeerk pool structure, and the door inside is currently submerged in pool goop. So the Animorphs go for Plan Clusterfuck. Cassie flies up an osprey morph with everyone else in her mouth an insect morph. She then demorphs in midair, morphs humpback whale in midair, and crashes into the pool. The Yeerks won't fire into the pool until it's evacuated, giving the Animorphs time to demorph and remorph in Cassie's mouth. Axe and Marco and Hork-Bajir morph mingle with the other Hork-Bajir controllers to cause some confusion, while... Oh, now wait a minute. There hasn't been a single mention of a prophecy in this entire book. That title is a lie. Long story short, the Animorphs get into the tree, find the ship, and use it to destroy the Yeerk pool as they escape. Oh, and Toby has just been sitting this entire thing out. So glad she tagged along. They bring the weapons to Queef, and then there's a bit about Cassie and Eldrea realizing that Toby might not want to leave her homeworld, that she might want to take the fight here. So they and Axe stage a weird intervention where Eldrea comes off as a meanie or something, and I guess that's enough to convince Toby otherwise, and hooray, Toby, you have no agency in your choices. And Eldrea finally lets go of her hold on Cassie and floats off into the void, and... the book just ends. We don't get the return trip to Earth or any kind of coda or reflection on the events. The book just stops. Post-book follow-up. I could go on and on about the ridiculous premise with all its voodoo magic, make the classic Cassie jokes and call it a day. But there's just something fundamentally wrong about this book. Something wrong all the way down into its DNA. Every single conflict that this book tries is botched in execution, but most oddly, botched in a variety of different ways. Let's go down the list, shall we? First, there's the matter of Queef acting suspicious and everyone wondering what his true motives are and all of this. Except that's quickly forgotten, and I guess Queef was totally on the level because he did everything he said he would. There's setup here, but no payoff. The reverse is true for the whole Toby wants to stay on the Hork-Bajir homeworld thing. It comes out of nowhere and is resolved almost immediately. And this, I think, is a shame because this would have been a good opportunity for a Toby-central book, an opportunity to learn more about her character. But outside of some okay interaction between her and Eldrea early on, she doesn't do anything. She gets on the ship to the homeworld, tags along for a little bit, and then just sits there on her hands. She was completely disposable to what was going on, and yet somehow the ending of the book was about her? What? I think I beat the whole Eldrea doesn't know where the weapons are thing into the ground enough. One of the bigger editor fails I've seen in this series. And then there's the whole will Eldrea give up Cassie's mind conflict, which just isn't all that interesting. We get a bit of, oh, Cassie, you are secretly strong, that's why I chose you over Rachel and Toby, which is really nothing but a bullshit way to artificially boost Cassie's character without her having to actually do anything. One could also argue that Eldrea is out of character here, with her doing things like arguing against Hork-Bajir on Hork-Bajir violence, even though that's all she really did in the Hork-Bajir Chronicles. That doesn't bug me too much. There was enough time between the end of that book and Eldrea's death for some character wiggle room. But then again, I'm fairly certain that Applegate or Metz or whoever were referencing the Hork-Bajir Chronicles from memory instead of cross-referencing the actual book, with things like forgetting that Eldrea was knocked unconscious, and for a moment when the Hork-Bajir concept of Mother Sky is incorrectly called Father Sky. As a kind of sequel to the Hork-Bajir Chronicles, it really doesn't add anything worthwhile, and as a part of Animorphs' continuity, it's worthless. Nothing comes from the events of this book. The whole reason for the Animorphs' participation in this was to spread the Yeerk forces a bit thinner and ease the conflict on Earth, but that doesn't happen. There's not even a passing mention of, wow, that whole Hork-Bajir clone army thing didn't give us any returns, did it? If you skip this book, you would miss nothing, and that is not a good position to be in. This is the opposite of number 29, The Sickness, which built on its continuity well, had massive impact on future books in the series, didn't feel the need to inflate Cassie's character, and, oh yeah, knew how to stage a conflict. You know, that thing that drives every story ever. The fact that both books were written by the same ghostwriter is fascinating. I give number 34, The Prophecy, a 2 out of 10.